Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Wired for Logic podcast. I have my guest today, Ahmed from Technikian. And did I say that right?
Technikian.
Technikian? Okay. And they specialize in technology and engineering, and I'll let him kind of explain a little bit more about what they do, but they're experts in their field, and I'll let you take it away. Go ahead, Ahmed. Tell us a little bit more about what you guys do.
We are specialize into electronic product designing. It's rightly starts from problem statement to the end user delivery phase. So it is the stages of process which need to be done. The clients comes enter with a problem statement which he has identified, and that can be solved by engineering skillfulness. We study the problem, we found the feasibility solution, we deliver to them with the solution. Then we start with the component selection process of electronics. Then we proceed with the circuit designing, testing, proof of concept. Once that topic is done, then we proceed with PCB designing. Once the PCB is done, we go with the product designing cosmetics, we can see, like how should be the enclosure, which should be the button, what should be the display, how the user can be more friendly, if there are batteries to be included, what safety precaution we need to provide with them. And once the process completes, then we go with the pilot testing. The pilot testings are done with some sort of experts. Once that is done, it is ready to launch in the market. So the clients come with a problem statement, they get their own product, so the client becomes the product owner, but on the other side we become the product developers.
Okay. So like a software developer just for hardware, though. So you guys create the
Yeah.
hardware from scratch.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So if you guys are creating the hardware, I know in being in the IT space, I know obviously a lot of hardware has, firmware, which is basically the software that controls the hardware at a very
Right.
basic level. Maybe you can dive into that a little bit more. Do you guys develop the firmware and everything for your components as well?
So it's right. So it's right from the physical, tangible hardware with the firmware. And if we are entering the space of IoT, then we need to also provide with the softwares and the drivers and the stuff.
Right. Okay. What kind of clients do you work with, and what's kind of the timeline on from product concept to like here's a finished product? What does that look like?
See, it depends upon the complexity of the project. So the minimum time is 1.5 months to 6 months. Depends upon the complexity, how much trial, how much the client is interested to come in the journey of development. Because it is not our own game. The person who is going to sell in the market, it's his responsibility to how the product need to be designed. And it is like we need to discuss with them, gets their imagination thoughts on paper, and then we need to put our engineering skillfulness, and then we can proceed with the development.
Okay. Do you guys work with a particular vertical, like, medical or dental, or
No, no,
like
no,
what
no,
kind
no,
of
no, no,
clients
no.
do you work with?
So the market is narrow, but the we can be the targeted. I'm having the client who is like illiterate to PhD. So the person who is illiterate is having like the farmer of India, that is the heart of the occupation of India. So they comes with an idea that we are building this, we want this in our farm to be designed and developed, and we need to sell it. So we provide them with the touches of electronics and stuff. Then they are able to sell it.
Is there something that I might be using in my home or office that you guys have developed? Like, is there a very
No,
common
presently.
piece of hardware? Like, oh yeah, a lot of homes have a such and such device, and
See,
that's something we developed.
Pre- presently we are at a very early stage, so none of our client have that much huge range of launching. They have only a sector to be launched at the moment.
I saw a product, a pretty interesting product the other day. It's kind of funny. It's a LiDAR system for mosquitoes. I don't know if you ever heard or seen this device, but if you get the Kickstarter, it comes with a little rotating stand. So you set the little device, it faces up. And as it's rotating, it's constantly scanning the air for mosquitoes. And when it finds a mosquito, it shoots a little laser and kills the
I have
mosquito.
also gone through it. Yeah, I have also gone through the same video.
I was like, man, that's a great idea. I mean, I don't know how to work with hardware. I'm a software guy other than putting together, computers and stuff like that. But that's just a great concept, man, because talk about what a nuisance flies and mosquitoes are. And if you can zap those suckers and get rid of them with ease, oh man, that would be amazing. What are some projects that twofold question. What's the most difficult project you guys ever worked on? And what was the most fun project and most rewarding project you guys have ever worked on?
Okay. The crazy project which I can see, I've worked with the bubble wall fountain. So it is hardly a 2 mm, or we can say 2 centimeter thick acrylic sheet, 2 mm ka sheet, joining together, building a 20 mm ka, we can say a vacuum.
Okay.
The water is filled into it. There are a few cabins into it. And once the water is filled, we are pushing the air. So the bubbles are creating. Are you able to imagine?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So by using that concept of timing, we are able to design. So
Hmm.
for example, you can consider a sheet of acrylic adjoining together. There are compartments and the water is filled into it, or we can say chamber rather than compartment. The exact word would be the chambers. And when we are putting the air into it, so it's creating a bubble. So if we want arrow type of shape, so we are putting the timing in a such a format which can deliver that particular image.
Okay.
So these systems are installed in hotels, you can say restaurants, offices. That was a crazy
Interesting.
project. It was a easy project, but it was a too much crazy project which we have delivered, and the client is like working with us from last 4 years.
Okay. And what was one
So
that was the most fun to do?
this was the project which we have enjoyed because it was like creating a designs by
Okay.
using bubble.
Interesting.
Yeah. The interesting project, which was the funniest, which we have having an inquiry, we haven't done. It was a project with giving airbag to a two-wheeler. So can you imagine giving an airbag to a two-wheeler when a person is riding? So my question was to the client that, okay, we will build a airbag, we will give the airbag to the two-wheeler, but if the person is falling or slipping from the road, then how the person will be flying in the air at the same moment. So
Interesting.
the client response was that I will provide with the seat belt, but the danger is too much compared to initially when he was like the person would have fell for some of the miles. That's it. But when you are giving a tying a seat belt over the two wheeler and providing with the airbag, then what is the point?
Do you, do you guys how do you guys get your business? Do you guys go out and network? Is it referrals from your existing clients? Like how do you get your new design work to come in the door?
See, it depends upon exhibitions. That is the primary source. As per today, there are some social media sites that is the second source, which we can third. The most lovely source is mouth marketing, which we get from our clients.
Do, do you do any advertising on LinkedIn? We found kind of mixed success with LinkedIn. It
Mm,
seems like it would be good for business related stuff, but
Not at the moment. LinkedIn and not at the moment because we are looking client which is like who are ready to give the projects. In the LinkedIn, it is like too much go discuss, give the quotation and stuff. And in our case, to give a quotation, we need to study the project, and that is a time-consuming activity as per today.
do most of your products have, because it sounds like you guys do a lot of technical projects, do most of them have network connectivity? And then what's the design and testing process look like on like the firmware side of things? Like obviously you have to make the physical hardware work, but that has to work in conjunction with the firmware. So what does that kind of look like?
Correct. So initially we are having a stages like to go build the hardware, the initial hardware, which is done over the breadboard or a prototype boards. When the hardware is ready, it is like a basic standalone hardware. Then we go with the software. Then we need to go neck to neck. Once we need to go and complete the hardware, then we again go to need to firmware, hardware, firmware, and based upon we end up with the completing the project. Yeah, we are having a team where one people is focused over the firmware, one people is focused over the hardware part. But it is not such a way that the hardware part is given to him, the firmware is ready, and we are merging together in on a single day. That is not done. That is difficult.
And then what about for like updates and things like that? Do you guys push out firmware updates like over the air, or do you have to, is it like your customers typically have to download them, or what does that look like?
It depends upon client to client. If the client wishes to give his customers over the air update, he can subscribe to our plan. If he wants, okay, I want just a standalone devices. So it's like standalone devices. We need to get to the back to the office and or to the lab and we will give you a firmware update.
Interesting. That's really cool. Technology has always fascinated me. What made you want to get into this industry of designing hardware? Like, where does your interest of technology come from?
The first come from my blood because I'm the fourth generation as an engineer in my family. So that was the first that it was from the childhood itself. Second, my engineering projects, which was I was very much curious to do it, went to the market, struggle. to just design a basic project. And I felt that designing is so much difficult. A person who have the idea but fails to have a technical hands-on people, so he would fail to give a good, we can say a good entrepreneur, or we will lost to some sort of enterprises which can gain much profits. So I started with this activity of Technikian technologies, where we will be helping people, or we will be giving a service where we can design, we can handle that technical backend, right from project designing to product delivery to product support, or we can say technical support.
Okay. And like technical support is in like the customer calling in, like the
Yeah.
end user of the product?
Yeah, it depends. If the customer is subscribing to the plan, then yes. Or
Okay.
customer have its own customer supports and which need to be diverted to us, it will be diverted to us.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. That's a cool concept because it makes sense if you
Yeah.
guys were the ones who, obviously the customer comes to you and says, "Hey, we need a such and such built," but you guys were the ones who know the intricacy of what makes that product work, and it would make sense for you guys to provide that support. So if the customer doesn't have if your customer, I should say, your client doesn't have the infrastructure to provide that support, subscribing to your plan like you described it makes sense because then they don't have to create that infrastructure to provide that
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
How long have you guys been around?
It has been 5 years full time, and the another 3 years was like 50-50. I was as well going for my graduation studies and doing the startup activities. So altogether 8 years.
Okay, that's good. How many employees do you guys have?
Presently, we are having 5 full-time employees, 3 freelancers, and 5 interns at the moment.
Nice. Okay. Now it's always difficult with like growth is we always found that challenging because you got to have the clients to scale, but then when you get the clients, you have extra work, so then you have to get more people. But if
Yeah,
you can't get the cash flow right, it creates a challenge on that side of things. Do you
yeah,
help
it's a
manage like the
challenge.
business side of things too, or no?
Yeah, presently we are into the struggling phase of itself. When we are getting a project, we need to hire people. So once the project season gets to the lower side, meaning we may need to leave some of the employees. So it is like a struggling patch we are going through it at the moment. Yeah, if we are getting the good project, it is continuous, it is good. Else we need to find a solution to maintain the cash flow.
Yeah, it's a challenge in business. Do you
Yeah.
have other partners, or you said managing partners? So I don't know if there's multiple partners, or is it just
Yeah,
yourself, or
there are
who
two
runs it?
partners. One is the managing partner, that is me, and one is my brother itself, who is the sleeping partner.
Okay. How did y'all meet?
Pardon?
How did you guys meet? Like what brought you two together to form this company?
It is my real brother. So we were just
Oh,
sitting
your
and
actual brother.
dialoguing.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were just dialoguing that we need to start something. He come from the mechanical background. I
Yeah.
come from the electronics background, and my father comes from the electrical background. So it is like
Okay.
a cluster of engineers in the home. So we thought that we need to start some designing phone, and that is a need of the moment.
That's awesome. I got my interest in technology from my dad. So my dad used to be an architect. Back when he started, and he was getting into AutoCAD, and you couldn't go buy a computer on the shelf. You had to build your own. So I would watch him build his own computers, put those together, load, MS-DOS, and then load up AutoCAD and all the little floppy disk. It's like loading up DOS was like, 6 different disks. And it was kind of like
Yeah.
a blast from the past. We just saw Tron Ares last night. And I don't know if it's released where you guys are yet, or if you guys are much into movies or not, but they're trying to find this little, it's called the permanence code, because these things that they create, that they bring from the electronic universe into the real world, only last like 30 minutes, like 29 minutes and 10 seconds or something crazy like that. And so to make it last longer, they have to find this thing called the permanence code. Well, the permanence code was found by some programmer like 30 years ago, and so they go finding this little hut out in the middle of I guess it's the Arctic tundra or something, and in here is all these old computers, and she starts flipping through all these old 5.25-inch discs, the floppies, and putting them in there and loading up games. And one of them was like some little Tron game or something. And so it's funny, reminded me of back in the day when you used to have to load up games, programs, operating systems, all that kind of stuff off of floppy disks, and how time consuming that was, having to get through each one, and then it's the next floppy, and you have to load. And then if one of them you get like halfway through the installation,
Yeah,
and if one of the floppies was bad, it's like you had to start all over again. It's like, oh man, where am I going to get a copy of? Because you can't just go to the store and say, hey, give me this one, give me disc 3 of 5. You have to buy the whole thing again, or get a friend that had a copy of that disc and make a copy of that, and just God, what a nightmare that used to be. Now everything you just download it in two
yeah.
seconds. So you need this app or that app
It's
or
like
whatever.
the
And we
size
live
of
in a
floppy. There are millions of floppy stored into such a small of chip, such a small size of a chip.
yep. It's crazy. But yeah, they so I watched him build those computers and load those applications. I got an interest in technology. I started getting into it. I helped some of his colleagues get their computers set up and things like that. And it was a joy for me. So I started my first so I started my career was in technical support, and I worked at a Um, it was a research facility here in San Antonio, Texas, and worked there for a while. And then I moved from there over to Caremark, and then from Caremark to IBM, IBM to USAA. And then after that, I decided, you know what? I want to start something on my own. So I could definitely appreciate the entrepreneurial spirit. I think that's fantastic. I wish there was more entrepreneurs out there. But it's hard. It's hard. Not everyone wants to do it.
Yeah,
Everyone, when they hear, oh, you own your own business, everyone thinks like, oh, he must just have the life. Like he owns his own business. Everything must just be great. Like he's just coasting on cloud nine and floating over rainbows all day. It's like, it doesn't work like that. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of
yeah.
struggle. But if you can make it, then there's a lot of reward on the other side. So I applaud you for taking the entrepreneurial route. That's great. Where do you guys see, uh, how do you see your growth over the next, say 5 or 10 years? Like, what does that look like for you?
See, presently, at the moment, we are just providing services to our client. Now, we are looking forward to launch our own industrial grade products, which will be used in industries, such kind of data loggers at the moment, which are in progress. Yeah, that's the plan which we are working over it. And if that is successful, then we are the product owner itself. We will having our own products, which will be used by industries, and each and every industries can use it.
Nice. What kind of technologies do you guys use to design these products? Is it like some kind of CAD software to design and build
Yeah,
it, or what
there
does
are
that look like? I'm
multiple
not familiar
softwares.
with
Like
it.
for the PCB, we require the PCB designing software. That can be Altium, that can be ZDA, KiCad, etc. Based upon the simulation, we are having multiple simulation software which we need to work over it. My interesting and the favorite one is MATLAB, the Simulink one. In the world of electronics, not there is a much difference between the ideal and the practical. So on the simulation, I am able to see the ideal version. But in the practical, it would be something else. In the
Okay.
simulation, it would be working very much fine. But in the real physical world or the practical in a practical situation, it won't. It might burn, it can be having burst or anything.
Do you guys use any kind of AI right now in your product development or coding of the firmware or anything
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we are using AI chatbots to design the product. Right? ChatGPT is the one of the enterprise version which we are having at the moment. So that is a
Okay.
tool which we are providing to employees for taking references to making the condition or the logic to be proven. So it is like easy. We get the answer immediately at the moment. Yeah,
Interesting.
we are
Okay.
struggling sometimes working with the bots. It's difficult. Sometimes we are designing the part A, it will tend us to design some sort of another part because it's AI.
Interesting. How have you seen AI transform your industry, like as a whole?
Yeah, we are like reducing our times. The deliveries are done very much quickly, which were taking 2 to 3 months. We are able to deliver in 1 month because the firmware part is done with the help of AI. The circuit designing is done through the part of help of AI. We are expecting it, but yeah, we are having a tool. We are having a person, a tool like a brother like tool that, okay, hey, I want to design this. What can be the possible solutions? And we can go through the n number of possibilities and we can pick up one of it, which we find good as per our engineering skill. And that's good.
No, that's excellent. Yeah, it's all the way technology moves. It's all very, very interesting. And I've seen a lot of technology growth, obviously, since I first got in the industry. That was like early '90s. Now it's like been messing with tech for 30 plus years. guess 35 years or so. It's crazy, but yeah, I've always enjoyed technology. It's always been fascinating to me, and I've enjoyed seeing the growth and the internet and um, the speed of computers and just what they can do. I mean, before it was just like you wrote a handful of applications like a spreadsheet app, a Word app, and then if you were more specialized, like an architect, you'd have AutoCAD. And I remember too back in the day, what was it? Lotus. That's who it was. Do you remember the Lotus products back in the day, or is that before your time?
I didn't get it.
Lotus, there was a company named Lotus that had a office suite that competed with Microsoft back in the day,
No,
and they were
I'm not
never
aware
able
at the moment.
to really make a whole lot of headway. But their their office suite was initially before Microsoft Office, it was the most popular one next to who was the company that made WordPerfect? I don't think WordPerfect's really around anymore, but maybe it is in some form or fashion. But WordPerfect was kind of like the standard, the gold standard, and Microsoft Word came along. And then you had Lotus had their suite of products. But I think IBM ended up buying them up or something, and I don't remember what they ended up doing with them. But yeah, it's just interesting. It's
Okay.
interesting all the growth and everything over the years. As we kind of wrap things up, what do you feel is the trajectory of technology and AI over the next 5 to 10 years?
Good question. See, it is like a tool. It is like a daily activity. It's like a mobile phone for me at the moment. Like I cannot walk in without the mobile, so I cannot uh, move without AI at the moment. It is good. We are making songs using AI, just providing few keywords, what we want. Initially, in the earlier day, we need to provide lyrics, we need to compose it, we need to provide with the music and stuff. But AI applications are delivering that particular music by providing few keywords, what movie want.
Yeah, man, it's just incredible. Everything too with the video. I don't know if you saw some of the Sora demos recently. That just wow, what they can do is crazy. Like I don't know if we're gonna start having within the next 2 or 3 years, we're gonna start having movies like entire
Yeah,
studio quality movies created and generated by Sora. That's gonna just be craziness. And you could cut
yeah,
production time and make me a Marvel movie with you know, Tony Stark as Iron Man and make him fly around the room and all this other kind of crazy stuff. And it just pops out the scene like nothing. And you stitch them
yeah.
together and do some editing and you're done. So it'll be interesting. We'll all be trying to find our footing in this new world with AI. If there was something while we're on the topic of AI, if there was something that you could wave a magic wand and say, if I could make AI do this, what would you make it do that would be incredibly beneficial for you as a business? Now, it's I'm trying to think of ways from like our end. We do a lot of troubleshooting on my other business, SD Tech, which is more on the IT side of things. We do a lot of troubleshooting of clients' computers and networks and stuff like that. If I had an AI agent that could go through and do the initial sweep, kind of like a level one technician, it could go through and check all the things that a tech would need to check right out of the gates. Maybe if you guys had something on your end that's like if client comes to you and says, I want an XYZ designed, and it could just you could feed in what they're asking for into an AI agent, and it would come up with kind of like you tell AI to like, hey, ChatGPT, make me 5 logos for a such and such company, and it comes up, design me 5 product concepts for XYZ. How amazing would that be? Be at least be a starting point. It's not saying you have to necessarily go with any of those designs, but it gives you kind of a jumping off point. Hey, I like number 3. Let's present that to the customer as an option. See what they think. They look at it, they're like, oh yeah, this is great. I love this. Okay, awesome. Then let's start actually making it. And what brainstorming do you guys do with it? Like what do you get it to come up with? Just like design concept at all, or just thoughts of what it could do? Right. That makes sense. Interesting. Well, it's yeah, technology is going to be just amazing over the next 5 years. Growth is going to continue to be incredible. I don't know where we'll be in 5 to 10 years, but I'm hopeful it makes our lives easier. So, do you have any other closing thoughts you'd like to add before we wrap it up? Excellent. Well, Ahmed, it was a pleasure having you on today, and I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. And thank you for your time today.